All right, so welcome to our Daytona 500 post-race show. We're going to start off with a race recap. The Daytona 500 thankfully was moved up an hour due to rain, but there was still like an hour of pre-race. I mean, so that made me really nervous. I was going to be ticked off if rain shortened this race. They could have truncated that a little bit. Another thing to mention, Fox really dumps a lot of resources into their 500 broadcast because it is the most viewed race of the year on Fox's network outside of the Indy 500. It's the most viewed NASCAR race of the season. So there was a 4K broadcast today. So if you didn't see that 4K broadcast, look for a replay. Your service, if you're on YouTube TV, it may have recorded it automatically. If you're on DirecTV, you may get the 4K channel for free, so check that out. And then I want to talk about the broadcasting options as well. Fox One is an option this year. If you don't have a way to watch the race, if you don't have a cable package, you can get Fox One. It gives you all the Fox networks, so you'll be able to watch the Fox half of the season. So it is an option. It is cheaper than a traditional cable package. It's a streaming service, so hopefully you have decent enough internet for that. So we do have a few new options this year on how to watch the sport. So excited about that. Now, even before the race, the rain was already starting to move in, and we had been monitoring that throughout the whole, stream today. And there was a ton of wind. So the wind really affected the handling of the cars. I mean, they were all over the track at certain points of this race and probably added to the excitement of the first couple of stages. So green flag, we get to racing, and then on lap 5, we don't make it very, very far. Lap 5, BJ McLeod goes around in the middle of the corner, collects Justin Allgaier, William Byron, and then somehow Noah Gragson and Casey Mears also receive damage. So let's get a replay of that going. Bring it up for you guys. So BJ McLeod didn't initially make the field. Anthony Alfredo was disqualified. So he was sent home. BJ filled his spot. And he's the first guy to bring out a caution and damage many competitive race cars, although I think everyone continued except for BJ. So not crazy, but for our Daytona 500 defending champion, receiving damage on lap 5. Not a great way to start. Casey Mears, low-budget team. Wasn't good to see them get damage as well. That was our lap 5 caution. So some early excitement there. And then, so after this, fuel strategy already split from the start. So some guys came down on the first lap that people were able to come by and pit, and they topped off. And that was a good call there to go ahead and take extra fuel so you didn't have to save as much later in the run. The only guy that ended up staying out, though, some guys pit on the second lap, but Kyle Busch stayed out entirely. So Kyle Busch now has 8 to 10 less laps of fuel than anyone else in the field, and he's leading the race. So that was a very strange call and really shook up his running position, and he didn't even hold the lead after they restarted. So the fact they didn't pit just ended up costing him in the long run. So Kyle led them back off. He ends up losing the lead. And then on lap 36, Kyle almost took out Brad Keselowski. We'll bring up a replay of that as well. So check this out. Coming off of 4, it's been a problem spot all weekend. Kyle just gets loose, gets into Brad, and they both somehow save it. And then Kyle moves back up into this middle groove, almost stacks up the field behind him. So, I mean, there were several close calls here. That was, what, lap 37? So still early in stage 1. I mean, that was very close to being, a multi-car accident, especially if Busch had overcorrected after and continued to take out half the field. That was almost a huge mess. And then during green flag stops, I don't know if we have a replay of this, but Jimmy Johnson coming to pit road ends up spinning out. Not really sure what happened there. I never saw a replay, but I'm guessing he just locked up the brakes and took a trip through the infield. So Jimmy Johnson ends up losing 2 laps during these green flag stops, and he has to work off that penalty pretty much the entire rest of the race. And then at the end of stage 1, Zane Smith ends up taking the win. And then after the stage 1 caution comes out, Noah Gragson, we'll show a replay of this. Noah Gragson ends up running out of fuel. And Josh Berry, this is a good moment of, manufacturer help. Josh Berry helped push Gragson back around the track. So some teamwork there, some cooperation between Fords. Interesting. Cool to see that. And then let's look at our stage 1 results. I'll have to pull these up. So the stage results do matter a bit more than the last several seasons because we are running a chase format this year. So all those chase points add up. Well, let's back up for you guys. Zane Smith taking the stage win. Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney. We have 3 Fords up here. Carson Hocevar, Daniel Suarez, some Spire guys. Another Spire guy. So really a lot of manufacturer and team cooperation towards the front of the field. And take a look at that. Not a huge HMS presence, but other than that, I mean, great showing for one of our Chevy teams and a couple of our Ford teams. So very impressive. Zane Smith, Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney, Carson Hocevar, Daniel Suarez, Chris Buescher, Michael McDowell, Ryan Preece, Alex Bowman, and Noah Gragson make up our top 10. We'll get back to stage 2 now. Cody Ware. So once they get back going, the way that the pit strategy, everything worked out, we went to commercial, and when we came back, Cody Ware was leading the race. I did not expect that. I did not have that on my bingo card, but there we were. So Cody Ware leading the race for a while. And I mentioned this live on stream, I'm not going to be shocked when Cody Ware takes out half the field here because, he doesn't have the experience running at the front of any kind of pack. So, you may know how your car handles in the field. Do you know how your car handles towards the front? You're being pushed by a lot of competitive guys. And then pretty much a lap or two after I said that, lap 84, Cody Ware brings out a multi-car crash. So I'll show you guys why I blame this on him. So Zilich does initiate this whole incident. Break this down for you guys. They get together. So Allgaier and Zilich get together. That's a foreshadowing for later in the race. But behind them, no contact. Maybe a, off-center push. He is kind of up the track himself next to Chastain. But he overcorrects just for no reason. He's not involved with the Zilich thing. Zilich didn't make contact with him. Cody Ware overreacts, ends up taking out a few good cars. Austin Dillon received a ton of damage, but pretty much everybody else continued. Zilich also received quite a bit of damage and lost several laps. So 2 guys received a fair amount of damage from this incident. That's a look at our lap 84 medium one. Not quite a big one yet. And then SVG, after this caution, SVG ends up leading for a while. SVG was having a good run. He was up front, and it's kind of wild to see him leading, not just on an oval, but a super speedway, which anyone can lead on a super speedway given the right conditions. But if SVG can figure these ovals out, the field is in trouble. But that remains to be seen how he's going to perform on the intermediates. Then on lap 124, Allgaier and Hamlin get together and cause the big one. And this is the caution that ends stage 2. So we'll get to the stage 2 winner in just a second. This is such a wild wreck because it happens so quickly, and it's hard to put any blame on one driver here. So Allgaier, he's out front. He runs a little further off the wall. That's normal for a guy running the high side. But Denny, for a split second, sees an opening. He takes the opening. But literally within a fraction of a second, Allgaier's already coming back up the track. There's not a spotter out there, unless they're an auctioneer that's used to saying 100 words a second. There's no way you could get that out fast enough that Hamlin's going high. And if you look behind, Blaney's still further down. Kyle Busch is further down. Everyone behind is following Allgaier. Hamlin's the only guy that tried to go to the high side here. And that ends up stacking up. They said a 17-car pileup here in this tweet, but I also heard 20 cars being involved as a possibility. So that, pretty much ends Allgaier's day. really hurts a lot of these race cars. Many of them were able to stay in the main pack, but this shook up the complexion of our race entirely. This whole event didn't have to happen. There were still, let's see how many laps. There were still 80 laps pretty much to go in this race. Just under 80 laps. And Hamlin's making a move. And we have Hamlin's in car. This is a better angle, in my opinion. You see how big of a run they had. Allgaier was too far out. You're not supposed to get that far out. Maybe that's just Cup inexperience. Inexperience in this package. But you see how fast it happens. Allgaier's up here. There's no room. And in a split second, it looks like Allgaier's going to move down to the middle lane. It does. So I understand maybe why Denny stayed in it. He had a huge run. He's clear here, but there's no margin of error to that outside wall. If I get out of the way... Oh, I'm just in the way. Screw it. Denny's right up against the outside wall. There's no margin for error. If Allgaier comes back up a little bit, they're going to crash. And that's exactly what ends up happening. As soon as they get together, Denny's already in the wall. There's nowhere to go. And so it's hard to blame that entirely on Denny. It's hard to blame that entirely on Allgaier or his spotter. Just a very unfortunate racing deal that took out a lot of good cars and extended the length of this race. Another view from further back from Joey Logano's onboard. Just a mess. Another angle there of that big one. So I just want to mention it again. Once we wrap up this race recap, you guys will be able to call in or text your thoughts in. So if you have any thoughts, you don't want to call in, go ahead and hit that text line, and you can share your thoughts on today's race and maybe a prediction for the rest of the season. So just anything NASCAR related, really. Let's get back to our breakdown here. So Bubba Wallace ends up winning stage 2 under caution. Let's look at our stage 2 results. So, I mean, these are worth valuable points here. Bubba Wallace getting 10 points. Ryan Blaney receiving 9 points. 3rd, John Hunter Nemechek. 4th, Kyle Busch. 5th, Riley Herbst. 6th, Corey Heim. 7th, Chris Buescher. 8th, Tyler Reddick. 9th, Joey Logano. And receiving 1 stage point, Daniel Suarez. So that caution ended up being the end to stage 2. So Bubba taking some stage points there. The Toyotas here were looking very good. They're in a very good position, pretty unified. And it looks like, they had control of the race. And they did for a while. Let's get into our stage 3 breakdown. Now, during stage 3, this is when a lot of people started to get annoyed, myself included. We were running 5 seconds off the pace at certain points, usually 2 to 3 seconds off the pace. During this stage 3 portion, they went 3 wide, they were fuel saving, and Toyotas were controlling all 3 lines. The inside, the middle, and the outside. So, just 3 wide, it was gridlock. It was kind of like rush hour on the interstate, just nowhere to go. And way off the pace. The Xfinity guys were running faster laps. The ARCA guys were running faster laps. The trucks were running faster laps. This Gen 7 package is just broken. And we can get into that a bit later. But rain, the whole time this was happening, rain was getting closer. We were monitoring that. So we knew it was going to pick up towards the end. And with 9 laps to go, it looks like, Denny Hamlin, this is on lap 192. Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell end up crashing. And I also called this one out right before it happened. I said John Hunter Nemechek was stacking up the outside line. And we'll pull up this replay for you guys. This is exactly what happened. When this was live, I was saying, Denny, he ran really high up in 4. And I thought that was kind of odd. But I said, they need to shuffle John Hunter Nemechek out of the lead of this outside line. He has a ton of damage on the front end. They need to, deal with that. The best thing the Toyotas could have done right here is for Bubba to pull up and lead that line. But this is what happens. They weren't able to make that happen because Denny, with a push from Corey Heim, gets loose off of 4, takes out his teammate Christopher Bell. Eric Jones also receiving a little damage here, but that pretty much ended Bell and Hamlin's race. They're interviewing Brad right now on the television. But, you know, just an unfortunate event there. And we were really worried here. The rain was at the track, according to the radar, after this caution. So I wasn't sure if we were going to restart the race. But with, you know, the rain clouds threatening, they ended up getting the race restarted. I'm not seeing any umbrellas at the track. So if it's coming down, it's very light at the moment. And then this is our last lap. So the last lap of our Daytona 500. We're 3 wide. A lot happens here. I think that's Eric Jones. Maybe Eric Jones. It might have been McDowell. But anyway, somebody turns Carson Hocevar here across the field. Our credit 1 bank, 1 lap to go. And if you check this out, let's break this down as we go. Byron's here on the inside line. The inside line's pretty uniform. There's some very fast forwards behind him. Byron's in a great position here to steal this race. Reddick comes down the track, gets into Byron. Nothing egregious. He didn't mean to, but he gets into Byron, knocks him down the track. That breaks up the inside line. That pushes the forwards further back and pretty much out of contention. If Reddick had not have contacted Byron, that inside line would have been a rocket ship. Now, if the caution had come out right after this wreck, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is your winner. Now, I was keeping an eye on this as we were going, and then soon after, it looks like maybe Chase Elliott would be the winner, but Reddick pulls ahead. If they had thrown the flag here, Reddick gets the win. They throw it here, Elliott gets the win. So I was just waiting on the flag to come out. They decided it was safe enough to make it back around. They stayed green. Zane Smith with a huge push here, but they get too far out ahead. And they end up losing contact here. Zane Smith just cannot stay with Chase Elliott. Should have stayed and defended a little better than that, and we would have a different winner. But Riley Herbst actually doing something for 2311 gives a really good push to Reddick. Reddick really being the only guy to survive to the end clean. And all those guys in the main pack got something. So Herbst did something really good here for 2311. Don't get me wrong. He did something really good. Helped his teammate get this massive run. Stayed with him. They were the only real teammates up there outside of Brad and Busher, but they weren't together. But then Brad has some steam here. He has some forwards behind him. He has some pace. And so he tries to go to the outside to make a run at it. And maybe could have made it 3 wide at the line. But Herbst goes up to block. Kind of like a similar incident to the Allgaier deal, but just, you know, a sloppy move here. Comes up the track, back across. Hard hit for Chase Elliott. And Tyler Reddick is our Daytona 500 champion. So what a race that was. What a race. Let's look at our leaderboard real quick. What a race. Several big ones. We had a threat. We had the threat of rain constantly. So Tyler Reddick taking it. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. second. Third, Joey Logano. Chase Elliott fourth. I think these guys might be our points leaders, because I think they both received a 10-point bonus for winning the dual races. Not sure how they did on stage points, but they should be up towards the top of the points lead. Tyler Reddick going to receive the bonus for winning. You know, a lot more points are rewarded for a win this year. So potentially Reddick could have it, depending on what his stage point situation was. Brad finishing fifth, disappointing. You know, even though these guys had good finishes, they all finished junked. Absolutely junked. Chase with a hard impact, finishing fourth. Joey somehow sneaking through to third. Riley Herbst, eighth. He's the one that helped Reddick get up there. Barry, Bubba, Gregson, Byron. Byron getting shuffled out on that last lap. Potentially had another shot. Was in a good position on the last lap before Reddick knocked him down the track. And then, you know, he rejoined but lost a ton of spots. Suarez, Dylan, Kyle Busch, 21 years, not able to get it done after starting on the pole. Kyle Larson receiving some big damage there. Not able to really make a run at it. Cody Ware, good finish, 17th. Hocevar and McDowell, after being in control on the last lap, pretty much, you know, they were really dominating, working together really well. They both end up crashing out, it looks like. AJ Ross, Eric Jones, I think Eric Jones was potentially the one that spun Hocevar. Ty Gibbs, Custer, Priest. And then we get into our damaged cars. John Hunter Nemechek, Ryan Blaney, Corey Heim, Jimmy Johnson. That's disappointing. SVG, Denny Hamlin, Casey Mears. All these guys are laps down now. Austin Cindric. But these points are worth it. At the end of the year, these may be the points needed to get them back out ahead. But Briscoe, 12 laps down, 36, their last car running. It's sad when a car that's off finishes ahead of you, but that's how it goes. And then dead last, BJ McLeod, Alex Bowman, all guy are back there. Disappointing race for those guys. Really disappointing race for Bass Pro Shops. Johnny Morris is punching air right now. Really, really disappointing race for those two. Jimmy Johnson only has one more attempt at the 500 scheduled. He announced next year will be his retirement, next 500. There's a few races remaining this season. He even has a truck race later this year. But next year will be Jimmy Johnson's last scheduled Daytona 500. And he's saying, as of right now, he'll be retired after that. So, McDowell might just run out of fuel. Potentially. It's just, yeah, honestly, I don't know if they have the points calculated yet, which is maybe why we're seeing that. I'll see if we can look up the points, and then we'll get to some call-ins here. If anybody wants to call in here shortly, or if anyone wants to text in. All right, we do have a breakdown here of our points. See if we can zoom in on this a bit. Why is it just getting smaller? All right, this works. So if you squint, you'll be able to see this. Tyler Reddick is our points leader. He has, looks like a 12-point lead. Joey and Chase with those 10 bonus points from the duels. They're going to stay up there in first and second. Zane Smith, fourth in points currently. Brad, sixth in the six. So not bad. The RFK guys up here. A lot of forwards up here. Carson Hocevar up here. Look at our top 16. Gregson, Larson, Bush, Barry, Hocevar, Suarez, Herbst, Blaney, Wallace, Busher, Keselowski, Stenhouse, Smith, Elliott, Logano, Reddick. So a lot of those guys will probably stay up here. And you'll probably see more guys like Byron, Ryan Priest probably, work his way back up. Shane Van Gisbergen with the road courses will make a run at the chase. You can guarantee that. Bell will move up. Hamlin, Bowman, potentially. So we have a lot of good guys that are stuck further back in the points. And next week, we have Atlanta, which is going to be another plate-style track. And that's not good. That's really not good. So if you're a guy like Bowman, you need to be extra clean next week. Try to stay out of the big one or the big ones, because if you start this season off with this chase format, 2 races down in terms of points, you're going to have a much harder time catching back up. There's no more winning you're in. You can't count on that. That is gone. The field's still 16, so it's still a good portion of the field that makes it. So the competitive guys, the higher funded drivers will funnel their way towards the top. But there's just something to keep an eye on as we go throughout the season. So good of X-File to post that. Go ahead and retweet that. So we'll go ahead and pull our leaderboard back up. Let me switch over to our Google Voice page. We have a message from King is Dead on our Google Voice number. So if you guys want to text in now, or if you want to call in on that line, we'll take your call. If not, we'll wrap things up here after discussing maybe a few other things about the race. Properties. There we go. So I have a message from King is Dead. He isn't able to watch the post-race stream, but that was an awesome race, even if Byron didn't win. Congrats to Reddick for winning the Daytona 500. That's right. That's right. Good to hear from you, King, even if you're not here. And a huge supporter of the stream, both with his time and monetarily. He's a huge supporter. Ronald, Good to see you, man. Let's go ahead and read through our comments. I know I missed a bunch. What a final lap. Everyone died except Reddick. That's what BRMH said. Stacy said, or well, Christian or Stacy, one of them said, look at Herp's top 10 and Gragson 11th. Yeah. Brad could have got there if it was going to be Shane Smith instead. But yeah, potentially, it looked like the Fords had a shot at it until Herps took them out. Fraudulent Fraudster, look at that. Can you look at the crash before the end again? Couldn't see it. I hope you saw the replay we just showed. If you didn't, and you're still here, comment that, and we'll show it again. You have DirecTV, you went to Fox, and they want you to upgrade your package to watch. Jonathan, you might have been looking at the 4K broadcast because your local Fox affiliate should have still been free. Because I know there were 2 different listings on DirecTV. I just switched back from DirecTV, so I'm aware of how they do their broadcast. So you may have been looking at the wrong version. Because if you need to upgrade to watch main Fox, then you have a terrible package, buddy. You can get Fox with an antenna. And you can get the whole O'Reilly Auto Parts series schedule with an antenna. So I highly recommend investing in an antenna. It's less delayed. You'll be ahead of Twitter. You'll be ahead of us, or up to us, because I'm also watching on antenna. I have YouTube TV up on my computer, and YouTube TV, even sped up, is about 15 to 20 seconds delayed. Ronald Duffney, good to see you. McDowell, yeah, might have ran out of fuel. We read that. Purposely trying to save his ride. Yeah, I mean, he really locked it in. You know, he didn't just push Reddick to the lead. He also took out the rest of the field. So good job to Herps for securing the win there for 23-11. It really is disappointing they didn't show the points at the end of the broadcast. They used to be on top of that back in the day. Points matter now, Fox. Points do matter, but I understand Fox is really big about ditching the NASCAR races because usually when the NASCAR races end, it's primetime television. They're just going for ratings. They don't care about NASCAR. They're just trying to cover, and receive as many views as they can. So they're trying to do the bare minimum, but receive the most. Melina, 1964, says, hi from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Welcome from Canada, maybe potentially the future 51st state of the United States of America. Potentially. I'm just kidding. But, or am I? We need that oil. She said, that was a perfect Daytona 500 race. I like to see that. There were some things that could have been better, but it was exciting. We didn't get rained out. We didn't run single file. It definitely had some bright spots. So I love to see that positivity, Melina. We need more of that from myself and from the community as well. Yeah, the points do matter. We can pull those up again just to refresh everybody's memory. If you missed the points, this is a breakdown. Reddick is our points leader currently. Joey, Chase are second and third. Further up, there's a lot of Fords. Bubba's up here. Ryan Blaney, Daniel Suarez, Carson Hocevar, Josh Berry. Kyle Busch is in the chase currently. Kyle Larson, Noah Gragson. So just missing out McDowell and Byron. So they have a bit of a hole to dig out of. So does Alex Bowman. Connor Zilic, rookie season. Our 2026 rookie of the year, Connor Zilic. He's the only one eligible. Justin's very happy with the results. You're just a Toyota homer. That's all you are. I know what you are, and it disgusts me. No, that's fine. Everybody has their favorites. And Reddick's a nice guy. I think he has a ton of talent. Potentially as much as Bell, maybe even more. I just don't think the cars he's given are as good as the JGR cars. I think he's a very talented driver, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him win 4 or 5 times this year. And luck was with him today. Yeah, you're a Ford guy? Sure. Sure. I'd be more okay with it if you're a Ford guy, but Chevy's my pick there. Golly. So Reddick, barely sneaking through a lot of this. What a crazy race. Seemed like at one point in the race, pretty much everyone was backwards at one point. And if Reddick hadn't have knocked the 24 out of position there, he would have been stuck in the second groove and probably wouldn't have received as much support. And the inside line wouldn't have broken up. So we would have had a different winner. And there's so much that could have affected the outcome of this race. So just a reminder, if anyone wants to call in, feel free. We will take your call. And we can discuss the race. You can share your thoughts on this race or this season. But if not, you can text in, share your thoughts that way. If not, we'll just talk about some miscellaneous things for a second. If you guys have any thoughts, you can put them in the chat as well. We'll cover that. But what a crazy race overall. Let me just pull open our leaderboard again. So one of the things I really liked, I don't know if I bookmarked this. One of the things I really liked, Wendy's did a really cool activation. We talked about this in the pre-race, but Wendy's did a cool activation before the race at the Wendy's nearest to the track. And they actually built a tiny little mock racetrack where they would do a simulated pit stop. Headset just cut off. So I hope I have this bookmarked. I'm going to just show that Wendy's activation again. I thought it was pretty cool. You would go through with a simulated pit stop and they would shine your tires. A pit crew came out, would shine your tires and clean off your windshield. That was pretty cool. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have that bookmark. That was pretty neat. Cool activation from our sponsors. It's really cool to see the sponsors get involved. Before the race, Fox did a pre-race stream on X. I'm not sure if they're going to do that throughout the rest of this season, but they were showing, the actual broadcast of the pre-race, but in the commercial breaks, they were just showing shots of the track, shots of driver introductions. It was really neat, and it reminded me a lot of the Prime coverage back when Prime was doing their streams, and we'll see that probably later this season. But if you don't remember, what Prime would do during their portion of the season is they would go live about 30 to 15 minutes before the broadcast and just show shots of the track and kind of give you the feeling of being there at the track before the race. Really neat stuff. I hope to see more of that from Fox. That may have just been a 500 thing. That was really cool. Another thing, today you guys may have seen it. Hopefully some of you guys got to watch it. They broadcasted the race on the 4K networks. So this was a 4K broadcast for those of you that have a 4K package and a 4K capable TV and the internet speed to go along with that, because it does require more internet bandwidth to pull down that 4K broadcast. But anyway, it was really nice to see that. I'm going to go watch the replay of the 4K race later just to see it, because 4K, it does look so much better on our modern televisions, especially with the larger screen size nowadays. And I want to see more of that. I want to see more 4K races, or at least 1080p like Prime was, because the 720p, it just isn't the best. And it's still the standard for sports broadcasting, but they need to get with the times and up it to at least 1080p. But it's good to see that 4K broadcast. Not everyone would have been able to watch that, but I'm glad it was an option. Another thing to keep an eye on, we saw it all throughout the weekend. Daytona's finally aging. That's fantastic. That's really good news, because it's been so long since Daytona's been a bumpy racetrack. I think it's been 15 years since the repave, and finally Daytona's starting to show those bumps again. You saw a lot of guys lose it coming out of turn 4 this weekend, especially in the lower series with those more narrow tires. It was very interesting to watch. I hope that continues, because the more Daytona can become a handling race, the more the races will start to resemble the older style of racing, where there's bigger runs, handling matters more, there's more comers and goers, and less of this 3-wide fuel saving stuff. Another thing, we just had our eye on the weather the whole race, and I don't want to worry anyone, but just putting this out there into the universe, next week we're going to potentially have even more rain, so just keep an eye out for that. There's a chance that we do get rain going into next week. And if you look at the Atlanta weather for next week, the whole thing, from Friday to Sunday, there's a chance of rain every one of those days currently. Now, that could still change. You know, weather changes very fast throughout the United States, but especially in the Southeast. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it be completely sunny all weekend, but I would also not be surprised to see a couple of those races get rain delayed. So we need to keep an eye on that. You know, NASCAR season's back when it rains in your area. All right. And then another thing I really want to touch on is the quality of Stage 3. And you saw it throughout the race, but especially in Stage 3, the fuel saving. That's just a byproduct of this Gen 7 car. And until we scrap this Gen 7 car, I'm not sure there's a way to gimmick your way out of this. They've considered throwing an extra stage caution. They've considered smaller fuel cells. No, neither of those are fixes. Those are band-aids for the problem, which is this next gen or this Gen 7 car. It's too draggy. Can't get a good enough run on it. And so you see a guy pull out, unless they have someone on their bumper, they're usually not going to continue forward with that run. It's really hard to generate runs. And handling doesn't matter as much because we do have the wider tires. It's more stable. There's more tread. So there's a few issues there. It's sad when the truck race was potentially the best race of the weekend. It was definitely between the truck race and the O'Reilly race, with the Cup race probably being third. ARCA race might be fourth. So that would be my ranking of the weekend's races. But it's just annoying to watch them go 3 wide. And during the third stage, they were running 5 seconds off the pace at certain parts. You know, their fastest laps were 46 seconds. They were running above 51 seconds at certain parts of Stage 3 trying to fuel save. And it's entertaining to the eye, to the average fan, the casual fan. It's entertaining to see them go 3 wide. It's a very NASCAR unique thing to do, to go 3 wide lap after lap, door to door. But they're not going all out. They're just riding around out there, you know, just trying to log laps. And it might be better than the old single file freight trains we used to get, but it's just not good. It's not entertaining. If you're aware of the fact they're fuel saving, it just greatly reduces the importance of the moment. So I hope to see that ended in the future somehow. And they may try to gimmick their way out of it with the smaller fuel cells, with throwing more caution flags, but that just creates artificial racing. We just need a different package. The 2018, 2019 package, the plate tracks were very entertaining, a little dangerous, a little too fast, but there needs to be some element of speed, some element of danger. That's what draws people to the sport. We're not here to watch guys run 20 miles per hour slower than they did just a few years back. It's just kind of ridiculous seeing these guys fuel save like they are. But once something gets learned, the strategy can't be unlearned. You know, you can't force the drivers not to fuel save. Some team is going to do it. But overall, I really enjoyed it. Stage 3 got a little dull there for a bit. But overall, it was a very fun race. You know, some comers and goers, the pit cycles, you know, seeing how teams were working together. Guys running very well towards the front, getting shuffled back. You know, there was a lot of stuff going on throughout this race. Seemed like everyone was involved in a wreck at some point. Even our race winner, Reddick, was involved. So just a crazy race. And we didn't see a ton of like manufacturers getting together. It would happen momentarily. But other than the 3 Toyotas leading Stage 3, we didn't really see a ton of manipulation from the manufacturers. The Toyotas had the worst round of pit stops out of any of the manufacturers, and somehow they still ended up winning the race. So anything can happen here at Daytona. I'm glad the rain held off. And I'm looking forward to Atlanta. Atlanta honestly may put on a better race than this weekend, because it's showing its age a lot faster than Daytona did due to how they paved it. But also it just being a tighter track in general. It's a much shorter track. It's a full mile shorter than Daytona, so the turns are much sharper. Handling is going to matter a lot more. Hopefully rain doesn't interfere with next weekend, but it should be a really good race. Atlanta's has been for the last couple of seasons, one of the most exciting races on the schedule. So if you're in the area, I highly recommend going. But if not, we'll be here live, and we'll be broadcasting the race just like we are now. So I hope to see you guys next weekend, and we'll be streaming in between now and then. We'll probably do a 100% Atlanta race on NASCAR 25 sometime during the week. So I hope to see you guys for that. We have a lot coming up. There's a game developer that reached out that wanted to play their game, so we'll be doing that. We'll be doing, obviously these NASCAR streams all throughout the season. If there's really big news, we might upload a separate video. But other than that, we haven't had anyone call in. We did have one person hit the text line. But I think just to keep this brief, just to keep things rolling, I'll let you guys get back to your afternoons. Thank you guys for joining us. Good to see you here at the end, Hamlin fan. Michael, Justin. Justin said ARCA sucked. Yeah, that's why I ranked it the last one. It was all right, but ARCA's ARCA. It's not the most competitive series. Good to see you, Stacy and Christian. King was in here a bunch. Melina, Ronald Duffy, BRMF. I mean, so many of you guys. Doodlebug, Darius, Jonah. I mean, thank you guys, all of you, for joining. There's over 17,000 of you guys here throughout the stream. Still holding on to 50 viewers right now. It's been a great stream so far. One last comment there from Justin, Sia AZ, Christian, and Stacy said, be safe. They'll be watching our streams probably on TV. May also be on next week. I love watching streams on TV. Sometimes I'll comment. I'll just leave one comment. I'll go on my phone and be like, I'm watching on my TV. I'm lurking. Good stream. Boom. And, just chill the rest of the stream. So I completely understand that. Most of our viewers are on the television. That's one reason why the chat's really slow is I think it's like 73% of our viewers are on the television. So it's a huge number. But that'll do it for us, ladies and gents. I hope you guys have a good one. Really fun way to start the season. I'm really glad we're back. For all the negatives that happened, I think there were a lot more positives today. NASCAR's trending in the right direction, in my opinion. We'll see if the fans respond to it. So hope to see you guys throughout this week. Hope to see you guys next week for Atlanta and throughout this season. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for liking, subscribing, and just hanging out here with us. This is a great place to hang out. A lot of nice people here. A lot of very smart, knowledgeable people. And I love hearing from you guys because you're able to share your perspectives. And because, when I see something, I'm not listening to the broadcast. I'm just talking over it. I'm, monitoring the chat. I'm looking at Twitter. So I'm not seeing everything. So sometimes you guys help inform me. A lot of times you guys help inform me what was said on the broadcast or what you picked up on or, what your predictions are. And it's just really great to build this sense of community. And it's something that NASCAR greatly needs. Yeah, looking forward to the rest of this season, but we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Hope you guys have a good one. If you hold on, you don't change the channel, it will send you guys over to the Y-Files, my favorite YouTube channel. They do conspiracy theories, urban legends, just crazy stories, and it's really entertaining. So I highly recommend you check out their channel. So maybe I'll see you guys over there in the chat. So have a good one.